Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely Stream Deck. For more information about the Stream Deck, the link is in the description below.
Good evening everybody and welcome back to round number 5 of AOR Hype Energy PS4 F1 Season 16 for the Spanish Grand Prix. First 4 races of this season have been packed full of drama, and given this circuit's reputation in this league, you would expect tonight to be no different whatsoever. Coming into this one, VGIA Michael carries a slender championship advantage of only 11 points over the Mercedes of Dominic Hoffman following an unprecedented race in Baku where almost all of the championship protagonists were involved in some kind of crash. After what we saw last week, I'm not sure anything would surprise me tonight. I'm AliK, and joining me in the comments box once again this evening is Austin.
Yes, welcome everyone, and in the previous 4 races, we had 4 different winners, so no one was able so far to win 2 races. Will we see this tonight here in Spain? I don't think so. I think we might see a 5th winner in the 5th race.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a new winner. It's been a track for new winners in real life as well. We saw Max Verstappen's first ever F1 race win here, and as you can see on screen at the moment, Pastor Maldonado back in 2012 with a massive upset. But also, something to note before we get into this race is once more, the strategy is finely poised. We say this almost every week now. The 1-stop and the 2-stop is almost equal on time. So once again, we get that interesting trade-off between track position or strategy advantage, and as well now with the safety car being much more frequently online, we could see literally anything happen strategy-wise.
Yes, but at the same time, the Spanish Grand Prix is not exactly a race that is known for safety cars. There is a lot of runoff areas, so I personally I wouldn't count on a safety car, other than, for example, a track like Azerbaijan or next week in Monaco. Here are a lot of runoff areas, so I think you can avoid crashes very, very well. The track is rather wide, and so the difference between the 1 and the 2 stop really comes down to the speed on track and the temperature, the management of the temperature of the tires.
So taking a look at the track, then you have 2 main overtaking opportunities into turn 1 and then into the hairpin of turn 10. It's actually really quite difficult to overtake around this track. The dirty air effect is probably the worst you would see around any track on this calendar. So it kind of makes the 2-stop a bit of a less viable option. But let's get into qualifying then. We are expecting to see pretty much a split of strategies here. Some people going for the softs, some people going for the super softs, which around this track are the softest compound of tyre. It is pretty much committing yourself to a certain strategy depending on which tyre you decide to start on.
Yes, well, we do expect it, but right now, every car is on the super soft tires, so we have no different strategy yet, but that doesn't mean that the strategies aren't going to change over the course of this qualifying, because there are going to be a couple of drivers who will not be in the top 10. There are still 3 drivers in the pit lane who haven't decided yet what they're actually going to fit, and so there are chances that some people will change to the soft compound tire, or maybe even the medium. Maybe someone in the tire allocation screen decided to go for the harder setting, to the harder allocation, and maybe start on the medium. That might actually be an interesting call to avoid any kind of traffic early on, that maybe you qualify on the softs, and you have other drivers ahead of you who are going to slow you down. No, with the mediums you can go long. You're going to go a little slower at the start, but you're not going to have traffic, and you run the long game basically. So I would be interested to see that, but even outside the top 10 there could be drivers that start on the mediums. We will have to wait and see.
We will indeed, and although everybody seems to be out on these super soft compound of tyres at the moment, I'm not so sure that a lot of them are actually representative times. We're expecting times on the super softs to be mid to high 15s for pole position. So the fact that almost everybody is in the 17s would imply to me that they're going for slower laps and then they're going to go faster on the softs later in the session, or at least that's what it seems like.
Yeah, I can only agree with that. I think a couple of drivers here are sandbagging, still, you know, slowing a little down, setting banker laps maybe. And you have to consider, you have 3 sets of super softs if you don't choose the harder allocation, in which case you still would have 2. But you have 3 sets of super soft tires here for the qualifying and 1 set of softs. So a lot of different tires to play with. You can run a first run on a set of super softs, run a little slower, have a banker lap, run another set of softs later when the track is getting better. And then maybe if you're not happy with your position, you can run another set of super softs, or even 2 sets of super softs.
Or
and
even any
bang in the
combination of
left
tyres at all. It's literally any possibilities here.
Yes.
I think it's quite often been a source of frustration for the drivers actually that you only get 1 compound of the middle compound to use in qualifying, because I think if you are going to start on the softs, you want to be able to run those tyres right at the end of the session where there is the most grip and you have the best chances and the best lap time, but it means that there's an awful lot riding on that 1 lap, and quite often it might not come together completely, or if you get an invalidation or you crash, you set no time throughout the qualifying session. So it depends whether you want to set that lap time a bit earlier in the session, give yourself a little bit of leeway for mistakes, but then not quite extract the maximum lap time. Qualifying is actually a lot more tactical than you might perhaps think it is to the untrained eye.
Indeed, and you mentioned the difficulty. The only way to get around this is if you choose the harder tire allocation, and then you go out on the mediums for a long stint. You get a little bit more familiar with the circuit. Maybe you get into the groove, and then you go out on the softs, and maybe you're still in the groove and you get a good lap time. But you really get only 1 chance on a tire compound to set the best lap time possible, and you got to make it count.
You do indeed. And currently, with a few minutes gone in this qualifying session, the current order is our previous pole man from last week, although he had a bit of a disastrous race. We'll gloss over that bit. Flying Finn in the Toro Rosso did pick up his first ever AOR pole position last time out, and he is currently on provisional pole by half a second, which is a pretty hefty margin ahead of the 2 Williams cars, who I'm not sure whether they are representative laps. I would imagine that a 16.9 is getting pretty close, but I think if someone said a 16.4 at this stage of the session, they are definitely pushing 100%, but I think everybody else's laps are probably up for question a little bit.
Yeah, I personally don't think that a 117.1 is the best our championship leader VGA Michael can do. I've seen him do this before, sandbagging in other leagues where he is racing, and quite blatantly, if I may just say that, sandbagging. And when I say quite blatantly, I mean slowing down to under 100 kilometers an hour just before the finish line. That's how blatant he is. He is sandbagging at times. And it was here at Spain, too, that I saw him do that. So I wouldn't count that out right now. So I think there's definitely potential still for a lot of drivers to improve their lap times. 16.9, 17.0 is not the end, is not the final lap time we're gonna see here. I honestly, right now, I think a 117.0 will not even suffice for a top 10 grid position.
No, I think you are completely right on that one. I think even if you're on the softs, you want to probably be aiming for mid to high 16s. If you're in the 17s, you're probably not going to be pushing anywhere near the front of the field. We've been on board with Flying Finn this entire lap, and it has been a little bit scruffy. He did dip a wheel into the gravel, which is never ideal, but he's managed to hold it together just about. He's on the grass again. He is pushing the limits and some here. This is like pushing to the absolute max. Let's see what he does around the final corner. Can he improve on his provisional pole position time? I would be surprised if he does, because that lap looked a little bit ragged, and in the end, no, he does not. So he stays half a second on provisional pole, but not improving that margin at all.
Yes, but as I said, he still has one more set of super softs. He might even try a second lap on that compound. Although I would, with the tire wear of the super softs here, I would highly doubt that. But again, he still has one more set of the super soft tires, and we'll see what he can do with that. I think, considering how the track evolves over time, that it usually gets better and better unless there's rain coming, but usually the track gets better and better as more cars are on the track, there's more rubber being left on the track, and therefore more grip. Usually you have your best run right at the end. It's not just because of sandbagging, there's actual time to be gained towards the latter stages of the qualifying. And interesting now that we have a first driver with a timed lap on the softs with Curly Whirly in P8. I was looking at his lap, and he made little mistakes here and there, but overall a good lap with a 17.5. There's still, again, like I said, there's still a bit of potential. Now more drivers switching to the softs with Yano Racing and Flores Vyers. So now we got 3 drivers who have the soft compound tire fitted. Maybe we will see some more changes.
I wouldn't be surprised if we do. The graphic you can currently see on the screen at the moment is the compound of tire that they have fitted, not the compound of tire they've set their fastest lap on. And it appears that Curly is still pushing on this lap. He's kept it in hot lap mode, and he seems to have been going pretty fast around this entire lap, so we'll stay on board with him as he goes through this final sector. I think he's just about going to have enough battery to complete the lap. I know that when the battery levels become a bit lower, the battery itself does become less effective and you lose a bit of that power. He's run a little bit wide in the final sector as well. I can't imagine he'd be coming into the pits at the end of this because he's been pushing this hard. He wouldn't want to take that life out of the tyres for no reason. So up to the line, what is Curly in the Ferrari going to be able to do on those soft compound tyres?
Wow.
It's a 16.7, wow.
That is a really, really good lap time right there. I'm pretty sure he's happy with it. And well done. And interesting to look at the ERS deployment, or the ERS charge rather, over the course of the lap. You can see even in hot lap mode he gained ERS battery, even though he was in hot lap mode between turns 10 and pretty much 15, the chicane, just before the final corner. So this sector, the last sector, is very nice to the ERS battery. You can charge up your ERS battery very, very well here, and that obviously makes it strategically interesting for the start-finish straight, because it is a very long straight and a very good overtaking opportunity, but you can defend with the ERS, and if you charge it right, if you are able to harvest a lot of energy in that last sector, where you really can't overtake. We talked about this, you talked about this before. There's only 2 overtaking opportunities really here. Maybe 3 if you want to count into turn 4, but that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Then you can run in no ERS deployment through the final sector completely and just charge your battery up probably from maybe 10-15% to, I think you can gain 30% just in that sector.
Yeah, I really don't think you'd lose much time either by running no ERS mode, simply because it's just such a low speed sector. It's very, very awkward as well in these cars. These really quite big, high downforce cars. The final sector does feel very, very awkward, particularly this final chicane, which we're watching Nardi go through at the moment. It feels really quite horrible in these cars, to be honest with you. It's not a nice corner whatsoever. The monstrous curbs on the inside and the outside make it quite difficult to negotiate, and they really do unsettle the car, particularly with the high ballast setups that we've seen over the last 2 years. The cars really just do not like that section of corners whatsoever. And now, as we're coming towards the end of this qualifying session, we have a flurry of activity, and pretty much everybody now is on the soft compounder tyres.
Yeah, that was kind of supposed to be expected, let's say. Only the top 4 and NTG Freak, who is out on a fast lap right now, but he comes back into the pits. He doesn't even set the lap time. He's deciding that was not a good run. Better save those tires for whatever reason, or fit the softs right now that everyone's on the softs, and make sure that that he gets one more run, because it's 3 minutes 30 left. So if he switches them now and gets out with at least 2 minutes, which there should be plenty of time for him, then he can go out on the softs and set one more lap, because he hasn't set one yet. And he's not the only one. 6 cars currently without a lap time. They will have one run, and that's it.
They're putting an awful lot of pressure on themselves to produce on this very last lap of this qualifying session. But let's ride on board with Jarno Racing. He's had a slightly underwhelming start to this season, but rumour has it that for this one he is looking in very, very good shape pace-wise. So let's stay on board with him for the rest of this lap. He's going to be one of the first people to set a competitive lap on these soft tyres. He's currently sat in P6, but that lap time means very little, having been set on the super soft compound tyres that nobody is running through turn 9 almost flat out, running a little bit wide on the curb. Let's go back to the broadcast cameras to follow through this final sector. Everybody else is pretty much on outlaps and just about to start their lap. They will see Jarno's benchmark. Let's see if he can hold it together through this final sector. It's looked pretty neat all the way through. He's got a little bit of traffic in his eye line coming into that next left-hander, which is never ideal. Can he hold it together through the final chicane? Misses the curb on the inside, misses the curb on the inside of the penultimate corner, and then through the final corner. This lap has looked almost spotless. Up to the line, what is it going to be for Jarno? And it's only 4th. A 16.7, and he only marginally beats Curly's lap time, interestingly.
Yes, and interestingly, Curly is now on the opposite strategy, fitting the super softs. And I've been watching Flores Virus, who comes now across the line and sets a 16.5. And he even made a mistake out of turn 4, out of the Repsol corner, got a little bit of grass on the exit there, and probably lost a 10th or 2 there, but still a very, very good lap time. And VJ Michael also improved on the softs, barely missing out on pole position, just 14 thousandths of a second.
I think, unfortunately for Flying Finn, he's managed to be the only one on the grid to confine himself to starting on the super soft tyres, which is not ideal at all for him. I mean, he has provisional pole position, but I'm not sure whether that's worth the strategy disadvantage that he's already placed himself at. He retires from the session with a 16.4 on the super soft as his best lap time, but he's got 2 very fast McLarens on a much better strategy directly behind him, which is not going to be great for his race, in all honesty. And unfortunately we missed Michael coming across the line, but he has absolutely smashed that lap on the soft tyres. Our championship leader has pulled one out of the bag with a 16.4, and Epic Gamer goes across the line and snatches pole position on the soft tyres with a 16.4. That lap is unreal. We saw him set a crazy fast lap in Bahrain, and he's done exactly the same thing here today. It is so close between those top 3. They're all on a 16.4, as unfortunately for Williams Nervo, he has collected, I think, Epic Gamer's retired car, maybe? Or is that an actual driving house? I think it is. And there's been a bit of an incident there, and that's really going to hamper poor old Nervo, who's currently in P5, but I don't think his best lap was set on those soft tyres. So he is going to be struggling a little bit as Alex is in the pits. Tim Palm is coming into the pits as well. Ollie D only in 9th, but I think he might be going for another lap here. No, he's retired as well. So this is looking more and more like our final grid here.
Yes, and we are getting information now in the chat that apparently it is supposed to rain at the end of the race. Just like China, just like Azerbaijan, 3 races in a row now where people are, or where the drivers are expecting rain just towards the end of the race, and we don't know when exactly it comes, just like they don't know exactly when it comes, but towards the end of the race. And maybe that is why a lot of drivers here decided to go onto the softs, and maybe this is also why, if you choose the tire allocation too harder before the weekend, you can go onto the mediums and you can qualify in the top 10 if you're really feeling it. But then again, looking at the times right now, we have 16.424 for Epic Gamer, and oh my goodness, we have 7/10 of a difference from P1 to P15.
Wow. That
and P17 didn't set a lap. So and even P16 is within a second. This is unbelievable. This is the best of the best, the cream of the crop of PS4 F1 2018 racing.
It is indeed. I have no idea how they are so close. That is just unreal how close it is for pole position on different tyres as well with Flying Finn on the Super Softs. That is just completely crazy, but Epic Gamer has put himself in a fantastic position for this race, starting on pole with a massive strategy advantage. It's a very slender margin on pole position, don't get me wrong, and in fact the entire top 5, if I'm correct, are separated by less than a tenth of a second. That is just insane.
Indeed, it is. And I'm very interested to see what the drivers outside the top 10 are going to do, especially a Deagle Killer, Danny, Alberto, all the way in the back of the grid. If they're going to decide to start on the softs, or will they try to run the mediums and maybe try one stop until the rain hits. I don't know if that is possible. It depends on when the rain comes. If the rain comes somewhere in the second half of the race, but close to the halfway point, there's a chance. If the rain is supposed to come lap 27, 28, 29, that's too late. You will not be able to make the mediums last that long. I think they will be able to probably go 20, 22 laps, maybe, if you can really stretch them out. Yeah, but not much longer. So, but that would be an interesting call to make. Maybe that is the fastest strategy. And if not, you can even try and think, you know what? Maybe a medium to super soft to wet strategy could work. That you have like a really short stint in the middle before the rain period comes, where you just keep pushing and you fly lap after lap after lap, and then the rain hits. Might be a good strategy call. We'll have to wait and see what the drivers are changing. It might be a very risky strategy though, so you would only try to run this if you are very far in the back, not what you expect. For example, like Deagle Killer. I mean, he won the last race and he's in P16 now. That is a strategy. Very high risk, very high reward.
We do love a good risky strategy here in the commentary box. It does make the races very, very entertaining to watch. I think I mentioned it in the last race in Baku, actually, that we've seen that strategy work before in the past, where someone outside the top 10 starts on the hardest compound of tyre and then takes it to the rain period and ends up getting a very solid result. I think the one that springs to mind most prominently is Alex's drive, who's now known as Car Alex, in season 13 or season 15 at Spa, where he was on the mediums, went really, really long into the race, and he was the only person to finish that race on a one stop when the intermediates came, which in the end won him the race despite a seeming lack of pace. So I'm sure he'll be looking for something a little bit similar today, although something to note is he's actually way up the order in P5, which is much better than we've seen so far.
Indeed, and I've been looking at the tire compounds for everyone outside the top 10. 5 of the 7 drivers decided to go on to the mediums, and only 2 go for the softs for the start. Curly Whirly and Danny MG are the only 2 who will be starting on the softs outside the top 10. Epic Gamer will be on pole, Flying Finn in 2nd place, VGI Michael in 3rd, NTG Freak in 4th, Car Alex in 5th place, you mentioned him before. Flores Virus in P6, he dropped down quite a little bit at the end of this qualifying. He was in 3rd, and then NTG came in, Epic Gamer came in, and Alex came in to push him down to 6th. Two of the 3 Williams drivers, Williams Nervo, Williams Alex, even though Williams Nervo is in a Renault, but obviously his name contains Williams. He's in P7, Alex in P8, VP Tim Palm in P9, Williams Nardi in P10. Then we got Yano Racing in P11, Ollie D in P12. He is the highest ranking driver in the standings without a win.
Wow, that's crazy.
So he might be looking for one here. Curly Whirly P13, Cass 14, Alberta 15, Deagle Killer 16, and Danny MG in 17. But here we go. Take it away, Ali.
Here we go then. Who knows what to expect for this season 16 Spanish Grand Prix. We've seen everything so far this season, and more surprises are almost certainly on the way. We are underway here in Spain, on board with Epic Gamer as he gets away pretty well from pole position. Is he going to cover the inside? Michael is already challenging Flying Finn into turn 1. Is he going to get boxed in though? No, the Haas goes defensive. Flying Finn on the inside for turn 2. Is Michael going to be able to carry all the way around the outside? He'll have the outside for turn 3 as well, which is not really where you want to be, and he has lost that position to the Toro Rosso. And it's under pressure from the Mercedes of NTG NTG Freak as well, who is going to get passed into turn 4. The McLaren is getting swamped by his teammates. Our championship leader is dropping down the order as Nervo on the super soft tyres makes the most of that extra grip at the start, forces his way up into P5, and it's getting very, very busy behind with the Ferraris getting interested in a few battles. So currently, it is still Epic Gamer who is leading the pack from Flying Finn in second. NTG Freak moving up into P3 with Michael just behind him. He is so close to the back of that Mercedes.
Yes, and in the midfield, I've seen some parts fly away. I think there is someone who has front wing damage. I couldn't see who it was because there was so much action going on. So many drivers side by side. It might have been Car Alex, who lost 4 positions on this start. He might have picked up. It doesn't look like he did. I really couldn't see who got that front wing damage, but maybe.
Whoa, big incident. Yano Racing has spun right at the back of the field. He got pushed a little bit off the track and then found himself on the gravel, which is not where you want to be. And he's dropped himself right down to 15th place on those medium tyres. He was so far up the order considering where he started. And unfortunately, it has all gone wrong for him very, very early on in this race. But let's go with Michael then. Into turn 1, he is very close to the back of that Mercedes once again, but he has to consign himself to staying behind for turn 1, and once again we have a very hectic start to this race, and Jarno's race, unfortunately for him, goes from bad to worse with picking up 2 corner cutting penalties on the opening lap and finding himself way, way down the order. That was a disastrous start. He tried to go side by side on the exit of turn 10 and then side by side through that kink as well, and it just never looked like it was going to end well. He got shoved a little bit wide at the hairpin and then a little bit wide again onto the gravel, and that unfortunately has cost him a decent race. But at the front, although Flying Finn is starting on those super soft tyres, he is still just about within touch of Epic Gamer in the lead.
Yes, and I've been looking at Williams Nardi. He had some front wing damage on the left side. He is now in last. Meanwhile, I think the winner of the start might be Deagle Killer. He started in 16th. He's up into 11th. 5 positions gained on the opening lap. That is a fantastic start. And he is now the 2nd highest runner on the mediums, only behind Ollie D, who is directly ahead of him in P10. So I think these two are going to try to run the long game here and make sure that maybe they even make it to the rain period. If not, maybe they'll try some weird strategy. We'll have to wait and see for that. But they are in a very good position right now. Ollie D already in the top 10 on the harder compound tires, and they keep up with the other guys ahead of them on the soft compound tires. So they can hold that pace right now. And at some point, the softs are going to drop off when the mediums are still going to be good. And that will be the moment for them to push and to gain some positions on track. And then obviously through the pits as well. But very, very interesting to see as Williams Nervo is in P5 on the the super softs. He gained 2 positions, but he's going to have to come into the pits soon. But that was important for him. If you start on the super soft, you want to gain positions ASAP.
Unfortunately for him, though, he is embroiled in a massive fight with Floris, and into the next hairpin, they almost make contact. That was very, very aggressive defending from the Renault, and Floris just decided to invent his own track there on the runoff, which was a little bit of an interesting line. I have to say, I haven't seen that one before. Maybe thought he was doing the MotoGP layout or something, because slightly unorthodox is the way I would describe that racing line. But he is still right behind Nervo, and that Renault runs a little bit wide at the final corner, but he is all over the back of Nervo, whose super soft tyres are not giving him anything to defend with whatsoever. And into turn 1, surely he's going to be able to make this one stick. And in front as well, NTG Freak is going side by side with the Toro Rosso, but cannot make anything stick into turns 1 and 2. You have to sit behind, and it's pretty clear now, I think, that these super softs are going off for all of the people who have started on them, and Nervo and Flying Finn are really starting to feel the effects of that.
Yes, you can see that Epic Gamer already pulled out almost, now it is a 2-second gap. It just switched from 1.9 to 2 seconds right there, as I mentioned it. A 2-second gap after just 3.5 laps now. So the super softs are really, well, done for pretty much. And I personally, I expect Flying Finn and Nervo to come into the pits at the end of this lap. Otherwise, they're just prolonging it, and there's no real use for it. You have to consider 2 aspects in racing, always, not just in Formula 1, but always. 1, you are driving against the other drivers on track, but 2, you're also driving the fastest way to the finish line. And right now, if he keeps his car on track and doesn't go into the pits, he slows himself down, and Flying Finn does stay out.
Wow, that's a very, very bold call, and now he's under all kinds of pressure from the Mercedes and the McLaren directly behind him. It's almost definitely going to be 3 wide into turn 1. Michael is so close to the back of that Toro Rosso, he can't find any way to try and get past into turn 1. He's going to try and carry it around the outside. He hasn't had a lot of space left from there, but those super softs on the Toro Rosso are not offering him any grip whatsoever. But Michael doesn't care one bit and swoops around the outside at turn 3 with a stunning move from the man who currently has an 11-point lead in this championship. Normally, you would expect the championship leader not to take any risks. Apparently, that doesn't quite apply to Michael here.
It doesn't really apply to anyone at this stage of the season. We're only in race number 5. The championship lead doesn't mean too much right now. It can all change at the snap of the fingers. And so you have to stay a little bit risky. Not too risky, obviously, but a little bit risky. You gotta pick your fights at times. And Michael did here, and he knew sticking behind Flying Finn for so long and looking where there was a weak spot for Flying Finn. He knew that turn 3, even around the outside, might be his chance, and he made it work, and he made it count. Very, very well done. Flying Finn and Nervo lost a lot of positions.
Wow.
Down to P16. He must have spun or something.
Wow, a very poor start for Williams Nervo, and as well as that, very poor start for Williams Nardi as well, who finds himself well down the order, as Flores actually is under pressure from the other Williams esports driver, Williams Alex, and Flores is so late on the brakes, he's closing right up to the back of Flying Finn, who just has no grip whatsoever, and once again he stays out. We expected the 2-stop pit window even to open at about lap 4. He stayed out till lap 6. He is really pushing these tyres to their absolute limit, and I'm pretty sure he was doing the same in qualifying. Those tyres are going to be screaming enough as Forrest looks to the outside for turn 5. Surely there is no way there. The super softs on the Toro Rosso are very worn, but they're not that worn. He's going to be able to stay on the track through that corner, and Flores is just holding himself up a little bit here as Ollie picks up a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. I'm pretty sure Flores has got one of them as well, which is not a good sign. Only 6 laps into this race, but the Flying Finn is very, very wide on the exit of turn 9. Surely Flores now is going to be able to make a move into turn 10. He's trying for the outside, but that's not really an overtaking place. You need to have the inside into that corner. And Flying Finn, despite being on a completely different strategy, is doing his best to hold up all of these guys. He still believes he's in a race with them as Flores kind of activates punt to pass there and hits the back of Flying Finn and sends him almost into a half spin through the hairpin. That was a little bit odd. Flores going very slowly through the chicane as well, trying to maximise his exit, and finally, at long last, Flying Finn peels into the pit lane and promotes Flores up into what will be P4 as Alex is just behind him. And these two could end up battling into turn 1 as well. Alex is weaving all over the track. That was slightly odd to see. I'm not sure what he was trying to gain there, but he hasn't turned up his ERS and he is content for now to sit back in P5.
Yeah, sometimes it's just smarter to stay behind and just let the other car pull you along for a couple of laps. Maybe Alex thinks he has some kind of strategy advantage. Maybe he knows he got an undercut on Flores, and so he's content to stick behind, and he knows Flores is just as fast as him. So there can be a lot of reasons why you want to just fight another day, really, and just stay behind for now. Again, you want to race the fastest to the finish line, and sometimes that means sticking behind another car and just wait for the right opportunity.
It does indeed, as more people are picking up 3-second time penalties. I thought Spain was quite an easy track to survive without corner cutting penalties. Apparently I was completely wrong. I'm not really sure where you can corner cut at this track. I mean, the chicane immediately prior to turn 9.
Have you seen the last chicane?
Yeah, and then the last chicane. Although the game is pretty lenient there, so I'm not sure how many liberties they are taking at that final chicane to pick up warnings. That is a little bit odd, to be honest. I expected to be not many penalties at all in this race, so to see so many so early on is a little bit surprising. But let's stay with Michael then in this McLaren, our championship leader, closing down on the man who's currently second in the championship, just ahead of him in that Mercedes, and he cannot get close enough to make a move. Something else to note is the gap between the two leaders, Epic Gamer and NTG Freak, has remained pretty much the same. It stayed at about 2.6 seconds, and it doesn't look like it's going anywhere, to be honest. I think Epic Gamer was able to just bolt away at the start, while Flying Finn was being a bit of a bottleneck behind and keeping the other soft runners behind him, and he has just bolted off into the distance. And it's going to be, I think, pretty difficult for Freak and Michael to win this race on pure pace now.
It certainly seems so, but we still have 25 laps left. and the distance is only 2.6 seconds between Epic Gamer and Freak. That's 1/10 a lap. That's not much. That can easily be gained through a pit stop, through a mistake. We're way too early to call this here in any direction whatsoever. I think the only thing we can say is that Nardi and Nervo don't have the best of outlooks right now, and Flying Finn as well. But other than that, I think everyone's pretty much in this, and with the rain looming over us, just waiting to come down, I would be very careful to make any predictions right now. As VGI and Michael now overtaking Freak into turn 1 with the help of DRS around the outside. Great move here. And he puts himself into second place, and he's trying to hunt Epic Gamer down now. As the gap has increased to 3.1 seconds. This is exactly what I was saying. If you fight, you lose time to everyone else, you know? And so the gap has increased from 2.6 to 3.2 over just a lap, because Michael and Freak were battling it out right here.
And they're only side by side really for 2 corners, and that's cost them 6-7 tenths, which just shows you how close on pace everybody is, and the fact that even going slightly offline will cost you huge amounts of time. But whilst all of that has been going on, there is some crazy battling going on in the midfield. There is a train of about 10 cars completely together from Tim Palm back to Alberto in 14th. There are just so many cars together. I think that was Deagle Killer trying to get past Alex into turn 10, and he does make that move, and Alex has really had a pretty poor start. He found himself up in P5 from qualifying, the first good qualifying we've seen from him all season, and it's just all gone wrong off the start. He's now down in P8, and I think he was lower than that at one point, and he's only been promoted due to a number of people pitting. But yeah, this train behind the 2 Red Bulls is getting very, very busy. There are just so many cars close together, as we saw in Bahrain. That is a bit of a recipe for disaster when you have so many cars so close together. But let's go with Ollie D then into turn 1. He's right behind Jarno, but he cannot get anywhere near him into turn 1 just because everybody in this train has the slipstream, everybody in this train has DRS, and it's proving to be quite difficult for Ollie to get past this Force India.
Indeed. In this train, if you ever find yourself the 3rd or even lower driver in a train, what you want to do is just stick behind and just let yourself drag along, save some ERS, and maybe try and overtake at a spot where you wouldn't really try it usually. Just use the surprise, the element of surprise to your advantage. That is the only thing you can really do. Otherwise, just stick behind and don't even try to fight. Because everyone's got DRS, so you can't overtake that way. Everyone knows how to defend with ERS, and the guys ahead of you are probably gonna try to save their ERS as well. So the only thing you can really do is just wait and hope that the second driver in that train overtakes the first driver, who most of the time is the one causing the train.
Yes, indeed. As again, these guys are very, very close together, and once again, Ollie D is right on the back of Jarno, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to do anything, because Jarno has slipstream and Jarno has DRS as well. So unless Ollie absolutely sends it, which it looks like he's trying to do into turn 1, but isn't quite late enough on the brakes, there's literally nothing he can do. He is all over the back of that Force India. With the dirty air and the slightly reduced strength of the slipstream and the fact that everybody has it, so it cancels out completely, it's proving to be very, very difficult to overtake in this midfield train. And yeah, it's getting a little bit hectic here, but we aren't seeing that many moves, surprisingly.
Well, I just saw one. Deagle Killer just overtook Tim Palm, and now Deagle Killer, amazingly, has gained 10 positions since the start. I'm going to say that again. That's more than half the field. 10 positions. That is just absolutely incredible. Deagle Killer is putting on an absolute textbook race right now. I'm running out of words right now. I've never seen someone gain or overtake more than half the field in just a third of the laps here in Spain, where you mentioned it at the start of the stream. You can't really overtake here. There's only 2 spots where you really can overtake. And
apologies to interrupt you, but whilst all of that has been going on, all three of the top three have come into the pit lane and are going to put themselves right out into all of this traffic, and Michael only just comes out ahead of Freak again, so he maintains that position. I think they are just going to be able to come out ahead of Flying Finn. It's going to be very, very close, and Flying Finn has got back ahead of Michael and NTG Freak, which they are going to absolutely hate. They're going to be sick of the sight at the back of that Toro Rosso. And unfortunately for them, I imagine it's going to cost them even more time in their pursuit of Epic Gamer, and that is just perfectly played into the hands of that Haas car.
yeah, as someone who's been competing in sim racing events before, I can tell you when this happens, usually what I did was for the next day, everything that was that color, I tried to ban out of my life. For 1 or 2 days, just I couldn't see it anymore. And I'm pretty sure that Michael and Freak are going to do the exact same thing, because you really, at some point, you're really gonna hate just the color. You don't have anything against the driver. Like, everyone in this league, they're all friends with each other. They're all nice to each other. This is what fair play and gentleman's sport is about. But you're just gonna hate the color at some point. This is usually how I projected it. And I don't know if Michael and Freak are gonna do the same, but maybe. As more drivers are coming into the pits now, we have Flores, Tim Palm Curly, and Danny MG all in the pits as well. And the only soft runner still out is Williams Alex, who is 2.4 seconds ahead of Deagle Killer.
Oh, and actually, as I think that's NTG Freak looking at Michael into turn 1 round the outside, they make a little bit of contact. The top 2 in the championship, and Freak, because of that, being pushed wide by the McLaren a little bit, has picked up a 3-second time penalty, and that is going to really hurt him in this race, given how close it is. He's looking to the outside for turn 4 as well. Michael defends the inside very intelligently, and then parks it on the apex beautifully to stop Freak from having a cutback line. And again, into turn 5, he goes slightly defensive. And again, this is just all playing into the hands of Epic Gamer, who's able to just drive away from these guys while they're scrapping amongst themselves for what we believe is going to be net P2. Although net P2 at the moment, there is still plenty of time for things to be shaken up here, and we do still believe there is rain coming before the end of this race. But as well as that, Flying Finn is driven away from these guys as well, so they really are slowing each other up an awful lot here.
Yes, and I wouldn't call it net P2. Again, Deagle Killer on these medium tires is doing an absolutely fantastic job. I wouldn't count him out. Plus, he's gonna have, if he switches to the softs, which at this point you would have to assume even with the rain coming, if he switches to the softs, he's gonna have the faster tire, and so he will be able to make moves, and the fresher tire as well. Michael now, as well as Freak, on 2 laps old mediums. And Deagle Killer isn't even close to coming into the pits. He's going to go for at least 4, 5, 6 more laps. Probably even more, because you want to make those softs count, and you don't want to run the softs for too long into the race. So he's going to stay out for quite a bit, and he's going to have really, really fresh, soft tires towards the end of the race, and he will be very, very aggressive on those. So I wouldn't count him out. I wouldn't count Jarno out. I wouldn't count Ollie D out. All the medium runners right now, the top 5, Cass and Alberto as well. There's only 6 seconds between them.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's a very rather close group, even after 13 and a half, almost 14 laps. So anything is possible at this point. We'll just have to wait and see. I think we might see a fantastic race where everything just comes together and culminates with all the kind of like a zipper, you know, where everything just comes together right at the end, and we're gonna have massive battles, and it's just gonna be of epic proportions. I hope that's the case.
Almost like we had in Bahrain. But whilst all of this is going on, Michael is looking to the outside of Flying Finn. This move is crucial for his race if he wants to distance NTG Freak, and we think he has managed to get himself ahead. So unfortunately, that Toro Rosso on the 2-stop strategy is now behind somebody who is on a 1-stop, which is not looking great for the future prospects of his race. That was a really, really nice move from Michael. Carried it beautifully around the outside of turn 1. And now Freak has a car between him and the guy that he is chasing down, not only in this race, but also in the championship, which is not ideal for him. And I think somehow Flying Finn's soft tyres are already starting to go off, because his lap times and the pace he has in this race just doesn't seem comparable to these medium runners whatsoever.
Yeah, my guess is that his tire temperatures are just too hot.
Yeah.
The tires are just overheating at this point. Maybe because he's been pushing too hard, too much. But it certainly seems so. He's sliding a lot as well, from what I can see at least. And I think that is the issue. Again, whoa, what a slide there. As I said it, oh boy. That's not what you want to see. That makes your heart race right there. As a driver, as a viewer, as anything. That makes your heart race be like, oh boy, hopefully he doesn't completely lose the car there and smash into the barrier.
It did look like he was almost at 90 degrees perpendicular to the track, the amount he slid there. That was a little bit ridiculous as he stays ahead of Freak because he had that DRS and the slipstream from Michael in front. The Mercedes wasn't able to make any kind of move whatsoever into turn 1, so he's going to have to stick behind again. He's so close throughout turn 3, but there's just nowhere he can go. There isn't really another overtaking opportunity until he gets back to turn 10, but then again, that Toro Rosso in front will still have slipstream and DRS from the car in front, and whilst these guys have been battling, these three who... Oh, Michael's run wide. Michael's made a mistake. Something has gone very badly wrong for Michael there. He ran completely off the track. He's been passed by his McLaren teammate and the two cars immediately behind him. That was very, very odd. It seemed to be like he was completely on his own, didn't have anyone with him, and then just drove off the track. What on earth has gone on there?
I have no idea. It seems like it was a concentration issue of sorts. That he just lost concentration there. That is usually not a corner where you make a mistake out of turn 5. Usually the really tricky spots here are turn 3 because it gets a little bit narrower at the start of turn 3 and then it gets wider. As well as turn 11, that left-hander, that cheeky left-hander that can just pull the car, pull the rear all the way to the side and just make you oversteer so hard if you take the curb the wrong way. And even if you don't take the curb, sometimes it just lifts your rear up and you lose the car. So that is a really tricky corner. Turn 12, the never-ending right-hander as well. But out of turn 5 is very, very unusual here to lose the car.
That was a very odd mistake. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what triggered him into making that, as Epic Gamer is going down the inside at turn 9 on that Force India. That is a very, very aggressive move for our net race leader here. They're going to be side by side again into turn 10, and the Force India, I think, quite rightly concedes. I think he might have feared for his life going side by side through turn 9. That was a completely crazy move, and somehow Epic Gamer has made it work brilliantly, and he now moves his way up into P4, and he still does retain what we think is going to be the net lead of this race. So as we go back to Veloce, Ollie D, as Jarno is the first medium runner to come into the pits quite early, I think, actually, for someone who's running the mediums. I expected them to go a little bit longer into this race, so it's still Deagle Killer in the lead currently. He was 5 seconds ahead of the nearest medium runner, so looks like we're having another Deagle Killer masterclass here, which is amazing to see. After the drive he had in Baku last time out, to see him doing so well again this week is very nice to see.
And there is drama unfolding in the Force India pits. Jarno was held a couple of seconds before they started the pit stop, so he lost a huge amount of time. There was no front wing change. They were just waiting. They were just not doing anything, and maybe he didn't ask for the pit stop, and so they were just completely baffled that he was coming in.
I remember that he had a 5-second stop and go penalty actually from earlier in the race when he had that mad incident at the start where he ended up in the gravel. I remember he picked up well, several penalties on that one lap, one being a 3-second corner cutting penalty and one being a 5-second stop and go. If my memory serves me correctly, and flying Finn in the gravel, that's not where you want to be on the exit of turn 9 at all. He picks up a penalty, and yeah, not quite looking great for Flying Finn in that Toro Rosso again. Once again, having qualified very well like he did in Baku, it hasn't quite worked out for him in the race. He seems to be not quite on the level of everybody else in the race, despite being so fast in qualifying, which is something that I think you gain with a bit more experience, as Flores is so close to the back of that Toro Rosso through the final chicane, almost runs completely into the back of him there, as Michael is now starting to catch back up to these guys after that very odd, probably confidence shaking mistake. It must take a lot of confidence to try and push again after making such a strange mistake like that. as Flores trying to go around the outside of turn 1 of that Toro Rosso, and he sweeps around the outside very, very nicely indeed. And the Toro Rosso has nothing to fight with whatsoever. So Flores back up into P5. And I think Michael might follow him through here. No, not quite. Flying Finn doesn't run wide enough for that to happen. So Flores has overtaken his teammate and is now chasing down NTG Freak in front of him.
Yeah, what a great overtake by Flores here. And one more thing that I wanted to say regarding Jarno, because he said it might be a little bit early. I don't think so. You see now Cass and Alberto have also made their pit stops. And Jarno's right at the back of them, even though they didn't have 5-second penalties, he did. So that is very interesting to see. But I think it's not too early because, again, remember, the rain is coming. Not winter is coming. No. The rain is coming. And I think coming into the pits lap 17, lap 18 might be a good call here, considering the soft compound tires probably don't have to go to the end of the race. Deagle Killer and Ollie seem like they're trying a different strategy. They might think that the rain will come too late, maybe lap 31, 32, which would be too late to change. And they're gambling on, or they're playing it safe, Rob. They're not gambling, they're playing it safe to make sure that even if the rain comes too late, they will still be able to make it to the end on very, very good tires. If they come into the pits at the end of this lap, it would be 13 laps on the softs they will have to complete. That's something pretty manageable.
Yeah, that should be very manageable. If you can manage almost 14 at the start of the race on heavy fuel on a scrub set of tyres, you should comfortably be able to manage 13 on lower fuel on a fresh set, so I don't think they should have any problems with that whatsoever. So as we are riding with Epic Gamer currently, who is our lead one-stopper, or the lead person to have made a stop in this race, he is right behind Veloce Ollie D, who has not made a stop yet in this race. He's still on that same set of medium tyres that he's been on for 19 laps now, so I'm sure those mediums are starting to feel a bit worse for wear. And it maybe is getting to the point here where he feels he's now committed to trying to take those set of mediums to the rain period. Unless he comes into the pits this lap or next, it would seem likely that that's going to happen. And he stays out, actually.
Yeah, Deagle Killer comes in, though.
Okay, so Deagle Killer comes in from the lead, but Ollie D stays out, which is very, very interesting to see. Our two leaders have completely split their strategies, and obviously the drivers have the benefit of Jeff in their ears telling them when the rain, in inverted commas, is going to come at some point in this race. We don't have that, so we don't have the same kind of information that they do, but that seems like a pretty big gamble from Ollie if that is indeed what he's doing.
Yeah, usually what happens now in the mind of one of the drivers, or in all of the minds of the drivers, is they're starting to calculate, okay, Jeff says 10 minutes, or Jeff says 15 minutes. What does that mean? How much is 15 minutes? How much is 10 minutes? Well, 4 minutes here is pretty much 3 laps. With a lap being roughly 1 minute and 20 long in the race, so 3 laps, 4 minutes. So that means 10 minutes would be 7.5 laps roughly. And 15 minutes would be about 10 laps. That's pretty much... Hold on, is that right? No,
something along those lines.
That was wrong. Sorry, no. Hold on, so 4 minutes... Now I have to calculate. Oh my god. So 4 minutes, 3 laps means 16 minutes is 12 laps. So roughly 11 laps. If Jeff says 15 minutes, you can say, okay, 11 laps. That would be the end of the race. That would be too late. If he says 10 minutes, now that's about 7 laps.
And while we've been doing some mental maths in the commentary box, Ollie's actually come into the pits. So it becomes a little bit more relevant now. So yeah. Ollie's moving well down the order, but he's going to be on the freshest tyres of anybody. But interestingly, I'm currently riding with Deagle Killer on his fresh soft compound tyres, which is going to take to the end of the race. He's currently 12.8 seconds behind the leader, down in 7th place. So he has 6 cars to clear in front of him if he wants to challenge for the lead. But he should be so much faster. He should have so much more grip than everybody else. And if he can keep the temperature manageable on those soft compound tyres, I think he's going to, with a very good shout of getting an incredible result in this race, considering where he started.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait for the end of this lap to see if this is the first lap that is not his out lap. Where he actually gets a competitive time, probably and hopefully, so we can really compare now his speed, his pace on track with Epic Gamer, with everyone on track. And I think we're going to see a new fastest lap time from Deagle Killer. which then might be shattered just next lap by Ollie D. But interestingly enough, when Deagle Killer came into the pits, he had a 6-second lead over Ollie D. That gap is now 10 seconds.
Wow.
So he gained 4 seconds just from the undercut by 1 lap.
And he's closing rapidly on his Rebel teammate here on the straight. He's been given a free slipstream and DRS that he moves back to the racing line pretty much for turn 1. He won't have lost much time at all. And he really is closing rapidly on the leader. Now that gap has come down from almost 13 seconds to 10.8. He is flying, and everybody in front of him should be very, very fearful of last week's winner, who is absolutely flying in this race. I think a lot of the people in front have penalties as well. I'm not sure whether Deagle Killer does have any. If he does, he certainly hasn't got that many. So he is in with a very, very good shot, potentially even winning this race. That gap has come down by almost 8 tenths in one sector alone. He is the fastest man on track out of the leaders by a mile.
Yeah, he gained 1.6 seconds on Epic Gamer last lap.
Wow.
1 lap, 1.6 seconds on the leader. And he does not have a penalty. I just looked, he only has 1 warning. So he can't even afford a second corner cut and would not get a penalty. So he is in a very, very good position right now. Epic Gamer has 2 warnings. So he has to be careful. NTG Freak has 3 penalties.
What?
9 seconds for NTG Freak. Flores has 1 penalty, and the second one is looming. 1 more corner cut from Flores, and he gets a second penalty. Williams Alex, 2 warnings. No penalty yet, but he has to be careful. VGIA Michael, 1 warning. So pretty much in the same position as Deagle Killer, but on much older and the harder tires. So Deagle Killer should be able to catch him easily, but in terms of penalties, they're the same as Deagle Killer. Sets the fastest lap, 1:18.9.
Wow. And you can visibly see corner on corner, he is catching the 2 cars in front of him. He is that much faster. He is close right up to the back of VGI Michael and Williams Alex, who were at one point some of our net in inverted commas leaders, because that's turned out to be a load of complete rubbish basically, because Deagle Killer has just completely thrown the rulebook out of the window in this race, and he's going to send it down the inside of that McLaren. He is so close to the back of Michael, whose race unfortunately hasn't quite gone the way he would have wanted it. He currently finds himself down in P5 after that mistake at turn 5, and I think it's going to get a lot worse in not a particularly large space of time. He's been dropping down the order lap after lap, and he's going to drop down the order again here. Deagle Killer is so much faster than all of these guys. Those fresh soft tyres are giving him so much more grip than everybody in front of him, and he should be able to just breeze past the McLaren here, and it wouldn't really make sense for Michael to fight it at all, because it seems at this point that it's inevitable. So Deagle down the inside into turn 1, breezes past, and his next target is Williams Alex, and he looks very, very vulnerable.
Yes, and Deagle Killer is just flying right now, but he needs to clear the traffic in front of him very, very quickly. Because we've seen now with Deagle Killer, let me look at his lap time that he was behind Michael now. He lost 6 tenths to his fastest lap. 119.5. He still gained 1.2 seconds on Epic Gamer, which is still incredible. But if he does not get past Williams Alex quickly, it's gonna be tough, because he still has to clear Flores, he still has to clear Freak, and he still has to clear Epic Gamer. So he needs to make 4 overtakes, and ideally before the rain period hits. And I've been looking at the sky whenever I got a shot of it, which doesn't happen too often, but some camera angles give us that. It's getting grayer and grayer. It's getting darker and darker. And looking at it right now, the development, I think we might see the rain coming either just at the verge. It's going to be interesting if it happens lap 29, lap 30. That will make it really interesting, as Deagle Killer now overtakes Alex, sends it into turn 1. Beautiful overtake there down the inside. Stays in the slipstream until the very last moment. Just, yeah, it wasn't that much of a send, but it was a very, very good overtake here. And now the hunt for the top 3 begins. But how much time does he have before the rain hits?
Oh, this is all coming together in the closing stages of this race. Do let us know in the chat who you think is going to win this race. And do remember as well, we now have a new driver of the day function on AOR. So in the chat, make sure you click that link and give the driver who you think has driven the best today a vote. It doesn't have to be the guy who's winning, doesn't have to be anybody in the top 5, just whoever you think has driven the best today. Go and give them support and go and give them a vote. But I think at the moment my driver of the day is 100% Deagle Killer, who is flying in this race and is currently closing down on the leaders very, very quickly. But something else to note is Epic Gamer has really dropped off, because NTG Freak is now all over the back of him. He's only 4.5 tenths back as we start lap 27 of 33 here at the Spanish Grand Prix. Epic Gamer is all of a sudden under all kinds of pressure, having looked under so much control this entire race. He's now got Deagle Killer flying from behind the pack and NTG Freak right behind him as well.
Yes, I'm trying to look at the lap times right now. Actually, his last lap time at 120.2 was pretty good. Better than his last 5 laps before that.
Oh, and Epic Gamer picks up a penalty. That could be crucial for this race. So now, to win this race, given he has no penalties, Deagle Killer now only needs to get within 3 seconds of the Haas of Epic Gamer. And to me, that is looking increasingly likely.
Yes, and again, don't forget, NTG Freak has 3 penalties and another 2 warnings. So he picked up 11 warnings in total. So he gets 1 more, he gets a 4th penalty. I don't know how many you can accumulate before being disqualified. There is a limit. It's no laughing matter. There is a limit. I think you can get 6 and the 7th would disqualify you. So he's not there yet, but he needs to really watch out. He's got 9 seconds worth of penalties already. And even Flores, as I said, has a 3-second penalty. So, you know, it's getting interesting. So right now, Deagle Killer would already be 3rd because he's within 3 seconds of Flores.
Regardless of how many penalties they have, though, they are going side by side for the lead of the race on track, and NTG Freak launches it down the inside into turn 1, just about gets it stopped and makes the corner as well. So he moves up into the lead of the race on track, but he has 9 seconds worth of penalties. He's going to be dropping well down the order, and I'm pretty sure he's already behind Deagle Killer on the net results. So although he's moved up into the lead of the race on track, he's holding up Epic Gamer as well. He's not looking great for a top 5 finish in this race, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And again, there's still more penalties looming for Freak. So he's in a really, really bad position right now. 1 more corner cut, and he loses another 3 seconds. But we'll have to wait and see what Deagle Killer does. I'm looking at his times again. I think he's dropping off a little now. Yeah, 119.7. His last lap wasn't as good. He didn't gain as much time. That was his worst lap on the soft tires so far. So it seems like they're dropping off a little. And his first and seconds, especially the first sector, he's really slow now, losing almost half a second to his previous lap times. And in the second sector as well, the worst second sector he had so far. Let's see, he comes across the line. There he is. And yeah, even worse. So it seems like the soft tires are now dropping off.
Oh, that is really unfortunate for him. He might have just pushed those tyres a little bit too hard. We saw him banging in fastest laps. He's overtaken so many cars on his way up to 4th place. He's made up 12 positions in this race. He started down in P16. Even if he only finishes on track in P4, he will move up with penalties, but I think that has still got to be an incredible result for him to gain that many positions with such an awesome strategy after winning in Baku last week would be unbelievable, regardless of whether he wins the race or not. To get a podium from that position would be an absolutely fantastic drive, but it is not over just yet. We're currently on lap 29 of 33 here, and the 2 leaders on track, regardless of penalties, are NTG Freak and Epic Gamer, and they are very, very close to each other. They are nose to tail pretty much through this final sector, and Epic Gamer surely is going to be looking to get that position back into turn 1. I think he's probably just about close enough. He's got plenty of ERS to use, but interestingly, he has a yellow fuel light on, so I don't think there's that much fuel to use as we come onto this main straight to start lap 30 of 33. He's putting it up into overtake, but he is not going to be close enough. And yeah, you mentioned Deagle's tyres are falling off, and you can see the gap has kind of plateaued at around 5 seconds between him and these leaders now. So maybe Deagle winning this race is a bit of a push now.
I wouldn't rule it out yet, though, because
yes,
Epic Gamer has 1 penalty, has 2 more warnings. So if he picks himself up another corner cut or track extension, then Deagle Killer is back in this race. Freak, I would say at this point, is out of the contention for the win.
Yeah.
With 9 seconds worth of penalties. Flores has 3 seconds, so this is gonna come down to the wire, really. This is gonna get very, very interesting. Who will actually win this race? It will come down to penalties ultimately, but who is? I don't want to say who's the luckiest ones, because obviously you are in charge of your own penalties.
Yeah.
But who was the most disciplined in terms of track limits?
It's always a little bit of a shame to see races decided by conditions off the track. We always love to see a battle for the lead on track, and then the win decided by that battle. But you've got to remember that corner cutting penalties are as much a part of racing as being fast is. There is no point being fast if you're going to go and pick up 9 seconds worth of corner cutting penalties in the race. The league is so close that even 3 seconds is going to really hamper you when the final results come around. But there is no way you can pick up a good result with 9 seconds worth of penalties. That is just completely crazy. I think as you go on in league racing, picking up corner cutting penalties becomes a much less regular occurrence. So maybe we'll see that as these guys become more experienced in the league, because it's quite a different experience to career mode or whatever. League racing in AOR is like nothing you will ever experience on an F1 game in any other mode. So I really hope these guys do sort out their corner cutting problems over the course of the season, because it will just make the races so much more entertaining for us to watch.
Indeed, but we are still having to do a little bit of math this way. And personally, I know you're not the greatest into math, but I studied it for 3 semesters, so I'm a bit more into it. And to me, this is exciting still. Looking at how the times evolve and who ends up in what position because of penalties. I'm having a very, very close look on Epic Gamer right now to see whether he does pick up another penalty or not. Because again, he only needs 1 more warning.
And unless my eyes are deceiving me, just to throw a little bit more excitement into this race, I'm pretty sure I can see raindrops on Epic Gamer's car, and I'm fairly sure the rain has arrived just to spice up this race a little bit more on the penultimate lap here, just in case we needed any more drama or tension or suspense. It started raining, and all of these guys are on horrifically worn medium tyres now. I mean, Epic Gamer Freak have been on them for ages, and then the soft tyres of Deagle are probably going to be feeling a little bit worse for wear now at this point. Let's have a look at their tyre data. So yeah, these guys have been on the mediums for 20 laps, which is just a little stretch, and then Deagle on those softs for 11 laps as well, so they're not going to be feeling particularly great either.
Yeah, this is the moment where you really have to just play your cards very, very carefully. You have to just brake earlier and earlier into every corner as the track gets wetter and wetter. There's still no sign that the DRS was disabled, and at this point, again, this is the point where the rain is coming a bit too late for a switch to inters, obviously, as we are about to start the last lap. But it's very slippery out there, and it's going to be a challenge for everyone, as there is a yellow flag in sector 2. There is Williams Nervo the wrong way around out of turn 5, it seems. He's spun and he's not moving.
That's an odd one. But the battle for this lead is still raging on. These guys are not going to win the race because of penalties. They are going to be finishing way down the order, as Nervo has disqualified himself from this race, interestingly. But as we are 2 sectors from the end of this race, on the final lap, lap 33 of 33, Freak and Epic Gamer are pushing each other right to the limit. We are almost at intermediate conditions now on this very last lap, and they are going to be really, really struggling on 21 lap old mediums to even keep the cars on the track, let alone keep going fast. But it seems at the moment like Epic Gamer isn't quite close enough to make a move on track, so you'll have to rely on penalties to try and get ahead of Freak. Freak has about 9 seconds worth. Epic Gamer, we believe, only has 1 or 2 penalties in this race, so
Epic Gamer has 1.
Epic Gamer has 1 penalty. Okay, so he has 3 seconds. NTG Freak has 9. So it appears at the moment like Freak will win the race on track, get passed by Epic Gamer, and then all eyes will turn to the guys behind as Epic Gamer is drifting through the final sector. He almost threw his race away with a few corners to go, and NTG Freak is pulling away slightly. That is not going to be enough for him to win this race. So, through the final chicane, let's see how all of these penalties shake out then. So, the Mercedes of Freak, the man who currently sits second in this championship, comes up to the line to win the race on track, but that's going to immediately be surpassed by Epic Gamer just behind him, who moves up into the lead. And then Flores, can he do anything about that? He moves ahead of Freak, and then Deagle Killer up to the line is second. He is 1.4 seconds away from that. So Epic Gamer takes the victory by 1.5 seconds with a stunning drive, and he just managed to keep it on track right at the end there.
Very, very exciting stuff. The rain just added a little bit of spice to it. And for Deagle Killer, unfortunately, that is not enough to win this race. But he gets second place, and starting in second last, I'm pretty sure he's going to be very happy with that. As, let me quickly look. Epic Gamer. Give me a second. Did he win a race before this season?
I don't believe so.
No, he got second, 11th, 7th, and 3rd. So we do, in fact, have our 5th winner in the 5th race.
Wow, that is crazy. I don't know whether that's ever been a thing in any AOR season before. 5 winners in 5 races is crazy.
Yeah, the previous 4 winners we had were VGIA Michael, NTG Freak, Curly, and Deagle Killer. So we have 5 winners in 5 races. This is going to make for a very exciting, very exciting season and championship.
Oh, certainly if it carries on in this vein and we keep getting different winners, and nobody really has been able to pull away in the championship, because Michael was leading coming into this one, but he finished, I believe, down in 7th place in that one, or at least he crossed the line down in 7th, which is not really going to do his championship challenge any favours. So I believe we'll be getting the results any second now. So there you go. It is Epic Gamer who takes victory at the Spanish Grand Prix, from Deagle Killer in 2nd place and Flourish with an impressive 3rd for McLaren, with Williams Alex coming home with a pretty solid P4, and NTG Freak, having crossed the line first, finds himself down in P5 with 9 seconds worth of penalties, with Tim Palm in the 2nd Red Bull up in P6, Michael, our championship leader, down in P7, Ollie with, I hate to say lackluster, but you'd expect maybe a little bit more from a former champion, but still decent points in the end. Car Alex with some points as well in P9, then Army Danny MG in P10 with the final points, then Curly, the first person not to score points, ahead of Yarno, Flying Finn, Cass, and Alberto, with Nardi and Nervo the only person not to finish in that race.
Yes, and I'm trying to calculate through the new standings. Let's say there's no additional penalties or penalties being taken away from anyone. I'm just gonna have to, it's gonna take a bit, but yeah, because NTG Freak has dropped 4 positions from 1 to 5 because of penalties.
Wow.
That is what 9 seconds of penalties get you in this league, from 1 to 5, from 25 points to 10. But he's still gaining a little bit of a few points on Michael. It was 11, now it is 7 points. Deagle Killer got 2nd place, I think. No, but he is taking 2nd place in the standings as well, with 70 now. So he's moving ahead of NTG Freak. Where was Ollie? Let me see. Ollie got 4 points. That's not going to help him. He's going to be at 53. Curly, did he finish inside the... No, 11th. So he's going to stay at 39. And our winner, Epic Gamer, had 24. So he's now at 49. So Epic Gamer moves up in the 5th place, just 4 points behind Ollie D, but also 16 points behind NTG Freak and 23 points behind VGIA Michael. But it's still very, very close. And we have 16 more races to come. So this isn't even the first quarter that's over here.
That is one long season. And we still have plenty more action to come for you. I'm pretty sure we have consecutive racing right up until the Christmas break as well. So we have race after race, weekend after weekend for you for the next 5 or 6 weekends now until the Christmas break. And also, the result is in for Driver of the Day. Congratulations to Deagle Killer, our eventual second place man from P16 on the grid, for winning the Driver of the Day. Thank you to all of you who voted in that. Also, a big thank you to everybody who has watched the stream today and joined the awesome action that we've watched all this evening. So thank you all very much to you, and we will see you next week for Monaco. Make sure you join us then, because that is going to be one hell of a race.